Hey, welcome everyone. We're going to get started here in about 2-3 more minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started for everybody today. So first off, thanks for joining us Thursday, July 11th. Today's webinar is focused on really having a conversation around how to elevate your existing data and get you thinking about your existing registration platforms and how to position those for the use of AI. We're going to start off by looking at an introduction of the team, and we'll dig into a little bit about the rise of AI. Here at Upper Hand, all of our data science and AI team members are here in Indianapolis, Indiana, right downtown off the Circle, what we'd like to call the capital of sports in America, residing here in our own hometown. But what's exciting is we have an amazing team, folks with statistics backgrounds, machine learning backgrounds, data science, et cetera. So you're really getting really strong insight from some experts who have real world experience dealing with sports businesses all across the country. So I want to kick it off by getting you thinking about what if you could predict the next purchase for every client, right? Start to think about what's possible with AI, using things like machine learning and decision trees to assist staff in pursuing a sale. Things like, what if you could predict when every client is going to churn, not just a single client, but everyone you have in your database? What if you could predict when clients drive retention of other members? Something using that's called flock modeling to predict sort of who follows the leader in a social setting. You could also look at predicting what causes a client to leave, then return months later, using something called ant colony modeling to predict who falls in line, just like real ants do. And all of this stuff is possible because of AI. But the challenge is there's a lot of data handling issues and kind of some misconceptions about how easy it is to get to really strong AI results. So we're going to take a quick second to talk about this. Just sort of understanding this phenomenon behind data and analytics and the rise of this in our daily lives. So anybody who has an Apple Watch, an Apple phone, or any type of health wristband device, AI is all around us, whether you know it or not. It's being used, and the pace of that change and growth in AI and technology is growing exponentially at a faster rate than really any other prior disruption that we've seen. And yet many, in our experience here at Upper Hand AI, that we work with are not really ready to implement AI. They're just not even sure what to do, even though they know people are talking about this on a regular basis. So why is this? Well, why is AI sort of taken off, and why are we in this sort of unknown area of what to do? Well, it's one of the topics I love the most in business school, which is around something you're going to learn about called the S curve and the innovator's dilemma. So what happens with the S curve, if you are old enough to remember renting a video from Blockbuster, that's kind of a legacy business, right? So you have this legacy idea behind a business, like going into a store and renting one VHS tape. Well, Netflix comes along, some new innovator, right? And they introduce this idea of you could get it by mail via DVD and VHS. Blockbuster doesn't really decide to make the pivot, right? They say, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing versus there's this new opportunity and new business we should pursue. And so you have this opportunity to make a decision as a business. Some other examples are if you look at CDs and cassettes and that whole transition to eventually MP3s, there's actually 3 S curves on this example. So as time goes on, cassettes start to fade to this launch of CDs. CDs mature after they take off with the launch of MP3s. and then CD companies, then it switched to MP3s, they go out of business. Just a classic business case lesson that's taught in business schools on a regular basis. And the S curve leads to what's called the innovator's dilemma. So you're in this moment of, all right, we know there's technology that's disrupting and changing how we do business and what we need to do. Do we make the decision to start implementing that disruptive technology or not? And that is what is known as the innovator's dilemma. And that's what we're talking about today when it comes to AI. Because AI is that current disruption that's happening not just in the sports and fitness space, but in every single industry and in every single aspect of every role within every company. AI is having an impact. So we're going to really focus on, how do we get from, this idea of how we've been doing and managing data and analyzing our data, even protecting our data, frankly, is a huge aspect of this that we're not even going to really dig into today. That's a separate webinar in and of itself, but really get ourselves to make this decision collectively to get you guys to have the access to the technology that's disruptive for Fortune 500 companies. And this brings us to our focus. So AI, what is AI? There's several branches of it. This is going to be the most dumbed down version you possibly could see of what it is, but I love it because it really does simplify the complexity around what it is. So there's a few branches of AI. You have machine learning, natural language processing, speech, and vision. You have within machine learning some deep learning. You also have predictive analytics, something we're going to be talking about today. And as a reference point, when ChatGPT came out, those are really under a number of these different branches now. But when they first launched, really started in deep learning and NLP. So how did this kind of start to come about in terms of Gen AI, generative AI, and the rise of the conversation? Well, you may remember in November, December of 2022, there's a company that launched called ChatGPT, and there's sort of this tracking of how popular a new technology app is to get to 1 million users. And you look at Netflix is over 1,000 days to get to 1 million users. You got things like Airbnb, Facebook, Square. You can see the number of days get smaller. Instagram was one of the fastest prior to ChatGPT. But then you have this company, ChatGPT, within a few days gets to 1 million users in November, December of 2022. And ChatGPT, when they launched, it is known as generative pre-trained transformer data. So it's a chatbot that you can use. And this demo today is not going to go into using ChatGPT. We have some prior demos we've done that we're happy to share with you. But the point we're going to talk about is all of this has led to this explosion of generative AI. So you no longer have just ChatGPT. You have products like Gemini by Google, Copilot by Microsoft, Cloud 3 by Anthropic, Grok by X, which is formerly Twitter, and more coming to market. Elon Musk just raised several $billion to start X.ai, which will be a new AI platform that we'll be hearing about very soon. But the challenge is none of this is helpful if our data is unusable. So what we find with people wanting to tap into ChatGPT or any generative AI in general is they can't use it if the data is not in a place where it's going to provide good accurate results. And that is something we've seen on a regular basis. So we're going to help try to understand your data and get you guys there and thinking about how to work with your existing data sources and companies you work with today to improve and get into that position. There's 4 types of analytics. I want to talk about this because you can't really get to predictive analytics and AI type analytics until you kind of go through some of these first pieces. So you have at the very beginning what's called descriptive analytics. So this is really helping you answer what happened, very sort of historic, looking in the past. Your second area of analytics is called diagnostics. So why did something happen? Predictive analytics starts to get into what will happen. And then you get into what's called prescriptive analytics at the far top right here, where you start to look at how can I make it happen? And Gartner outlines this in transitioning from how humans have historically done and managed analytics, those same 4 here. So you got descriptive at the top, sort of what happened, very manual, diagnostic, why did it happen, predictive. And then you have this chasm in the middle where the humans got to figure out how to interpret those analytics and make a decision off of it, right? So this is kind of your historic way of doing business analytics. So platforms today, whether you generate custom reports in a registration platform, today, or you use a platform like Looker, you're still having to look at and interpret bar charts, pie charts, tables of data to try to make a decision. Well, that's going to be changing, and we're starting to see it as upper hand AI ourselves in the market, where AI is going to be doing a lot of that for you. So it's going to really replace this sort of middle part of analytics, where you're not going to have to sit and look at and drill down into all these different bar charts and data. It's going to provide the decisions for you. It's something known as decision analytics that's coming and will become a popular keyword in the market. Um, Gartner believes that 37% of organizations today have implemented some form of AI, with 80% of Fortune 500 companies are predicted to have this implemented in the next couple years. That's important because these are the leaders in business, right? So Gartner, if you're a business nerd, one of the great research companies out there, provides a lot of great insights on what are the Fortune 500 companies doing, where are they spending their money. That's obviously important for us, right? We work with small businesses all across the country who don't have those budgets, but there's this need to be competitive and improve your business operations. Gartner also believes, this static reporting isn't going to be helpful for you in 12 to 24 months as new companies and opportunities launch to become and get decisions out of your analytics and your data. So it becomes very important for us to start thinking about the idea that most customers we work with prior to coming to Upper Hand AI aren't really even in a position to do descriptive analytics because of the state of the data that they have. There's also the biggest challenge once you get your data in a good place is the cost of AI. So this is some data pulled from Gartner resources, just highlighting on a monthly basis, if you were to do and launch your own AI sort of team and build out a data architecture, what that cost could look like, anywhere from $10,000 to $46,000 a month. You're really on the low side in terms of total cost. And that's where the Upper Hand AI team comes in, our platform and advice comes in, as we bring this human element to something that feels very mechanical for a lot of us to help guide and get you in a position to be competitive and stay competitive in the market. So as we look at getting there, so what are the 5 stages of data development? Now you can think about your existing data sets. The first is data collection. So we're going to talk a lot about this. And this is something that is really the most broken for most businesses, and where a lot of time is spent. It's the non-fun side, right? Getting your data, starting to then manipulate that data, which means get it in a way you can actually use it. So in this case, with data collection, you're just identifying what are those data sources that we have, okay, as a business. Is it active network registration? Is it a Google Sheet that you have? Do you want some of your Facebook data? What are those different data sources that you currently have and are using? But also, what data do you have that you may not even realize is data? Because everything is data today, right? So if you have video streams from people walking into your store, that is data. You may not be using it or storing it in any way, but starting to think about what are those pieces of data. We then go through a process of manipulating that data, try to find out and get the data relevant. So this is where we start to do a lot of cleaning, getting the data relevant to that business, where then we can start generating insights and then get into delivering that data in a form of analytics for the business. 90% of your effort and our effort here at Upper Hand AI is spent doing the first 3. And you could almost say 90% in these first 2, because it takes a lot of work and effort to clean some of this historical, very dirty data. So data collection, very important. We can't do AI or any predictive analytics without it. That all leads to what is a simplified architecture for your data, which you see here. What you're looking at is on the far left is taking your data sources after you've identified them. Our team then ingests that data, which is just simply another way of saying we save it and put it somewhere to be able to be used. That data is then cleaned, where we can write different coding models to process. We store it into your data lake or warehouse, and we can then generate analytics and reporting for you. A couple of pieces of advice is before we jump into the demo of what that AI dashboard can look like. We recommend assigning a point person right now. I mean, whether you're working with an Upper Hand AI or somebody else in the market, who is the point person within your business, and it may be you, who is going to identify the data sources, who's going to be the person that manages those data sources for the business and make sure they're secure, you're updating passwords, doing all the things that are necessary so that you can leverage those data sources here in the near future. You should be outlining any current reports, manual processes that you have. We love these manual processes. So a lot of times we'll find people with incredible spreadsheets that they've built over time, and we're going to help take those from a manual process to an automated process for you with an AI data dashboard. Once you get access to some of these data sources, you can now start identifying where you have data quality issues, to be able to help either start cleaning them yourselves or working with a team like Upper Hand AI to clean them. This is a very simple example. This is actually, if I handed a data set like this to our AI team, they'd probably be happy because this looks, fairly clean relative to what we actually see in the real world. But it does highlight what is basically dirty data, right? So you have missing values, you have inconsistent data, where a lot of times we see when we pull data for registration platforms in our customers, this being a perfect example where you're going to identify what grade somebody's in. Some people spell out the grade versus use acronyms, versus using numbers of what they're in. And then you can have also noisy data where people are just inputting inaccurate numerical data as it relates to the field you're trying to collect. So another piece of advice to start working on things you can be doing today. And then you also want to be outlining a process to update and maintain your data sources. This is really important. There are a lot of platforms out there that we work with that are excellent registration platforms. DaySmart's an excellent platform that we've worked with. MindBody, Active, they're all out there, but you got to use it. And so there's some times where you have to mandate to your staff how to use it, when to use it, and make sure that they do use it. Otherwise, it really complicates things in the back end. So with that, it gets us into being able to actually look at our data from a data perspective. So we're going to show you what that looks like right now. As we go through this, if you have questions, feel free to throw anything in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. So what we're going to show here are some sample data. So keep in mind, this is all de-identified fake data. So it won't be as fun to dive into as maybe your data would be, but it'll give you a great example as to how your data could look inside Upper Hand AI and how we would use it as a team. So the first step is after we go through the process of ingesting all of that data that you've provided, our team's cleaned it for you. We then set up and create a number of different analytics for you based off of your feedback. Here we're looking at a few different dashboards within one app. So some client analytics for our customers that can highlight things like top 10 paying clients. You could drill down into these different data points to see records. If you wanted to know what they bought, we could dive into that. That's going to pull that up. We have data like client demographics. So looking at gender by age and gender across different groups to identify where might we have some offerings today that we should shift to areas where we have more clients at a different age group. So for example, maybe we've got too much programming for 10 to 19-year-olds, and we should launch more training for the younger age group or older age group based on what our current clientele demographics look like. All these tables have drill down capability. And the most important part is now we can take this data and run predictive analytics on it. So you can download these results. Our team runs the predictive analytics using different data tools that we then ingest and show you in here. You could even run some yourself, right? You could download these results. If you use ChatGPT, you need to be cautious in putting your own data into any generative AI platform from a privacy perspective, but there are ways to do it effectively. But now you can download these clean results that you may not have had before. Some other dashboards and ways that the data can be used. We've had clients where some of the new client percentages, things were calculated by Google Sheets or spreadsheets. Now they can see that in an automated real-time fashion. When people are signing up, by day, you can even look down to the hour. A breakdown of event rosters. Sometimes that can be manual for folks. An identification of whether they're new or returning. Where are people booking by resource details, and even get down to instructor level by session for your events as well. We then have something we can do for free trials. So again, any use case you can think of, and that kind of goes back to when we talk about identifying somebody within the business and what data sources you have. You'll also write down the questions you have about your data. What are you wanting to see? What do you talk about on a daily basis? Because all that's going to become very important. You start to build these data dashboards. And this free trial is an example of that. So we work with several customers who offer free trials as a part of their business, and tracking the conversion of those free trials can be very, very manual. So we've been able to help automate to a high degree those free trial conversion tracking. So now they can see average conversion rate on an aggregate level. They can see it by month. They can see it by facility. You sort of name the way you'd like to see it, and it's possible. And it's really cool that, if we did this webinar in an hour, this number changes. So it really helps give an idea of whether you're improving or not with respect to some of the decisions you're making as a business. We then have membership analytics. So for those that have recurring revenue, we can show some of that in here for you, down to the lifetime value and number of days that you have members within the business. And we also have some revenue dashboards, obviously stuff you love to see on a daily basis. How are we performing each week, each day in different areas of the business? All of that is capable within this platform. Again, you can drill down into see records, et cetera. So once you get these data sources that are yours, now we're also in a position to leverage and take AI to the next level, which is pulling in third-party data. So what is third-party data and how would we use it? Demographics and geography is always probably the easiest visually and mentally to kind of understand. But here we have, let's go back to the client information. So here we've got a client table. For most of our customers, we'll have city, state, zip code in here, like most of you have in your registration systems. You can map and plot that on here, right, on a US map. But now with third-party data, with your data being cleaned up, we can pull in things like census data. We could pull in Facebook ad data and look at things like what is the total age distribution by zip code for a particular area. This is sort of showing Chicago as an example. But for this zip code 60629, what is the median income? How many households are there? What's the population by gender based on age? And how often did we see enrollments in kindergarten versus first to third grade, et cetera, inside those zip codes? This being an example for you here, school enrollment by zip code, right? Targeting our youth sports categories, et cetera. Then we also have other ways to dissect that data. Again, census data goes very deep into analytics, but now you can overlay that data with your existing registration and platform data to do a couple of things. One, really get great insight into what opportunities exist in terms of marketing, learn a little bit more about the types of people that live in the areas that you're currently doing business. But then it's going to also empower the predictive models that our team at Upper Hand is building for our customers to help predict things like whether a client's going to churn, what is the ideal characteristics of your best client to get the highest lifetime value for your business as well. So those are some of the top level ways to use Upper Hand AI. Other small features that might be helpful just to know, you can subscribe to your data. So you can email it to yourself if you like to see your revenue figures, maybe how many new registrations you have and clients in the when you first wake up and have your coffee, like we like to do. You can refresh your data as frequently as you'd like. Some really cool functionality here built in. So with that, happy to answer any questions. We're at the sort of close to 1:30 mark, so I want to make sure we answer any questions people have. We would also welcome you to connect with us, whether you're interested in a partner like Upper Hand AI or just want some questions answered. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. We'd love to help show how we can connect your registration data, build and maintain your data dashboards, and show you how we can run predictive analytics reports. Obviously, those start to become very data sensitive, and we have to take into account, privacy laws, et cetera, as it relates to some of that stuff. So feel free to email me at kevin@upperhand.com. We'd love to hear from you as it relates to your data and getting you AI ready. Um, I'm gonna pause here, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Is there anything you'd like to see? Good. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys, for hopping on here today, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next webinar. Thank you.